Welcome back everybody to another layout update. It's been a very long time since the last layout update. I think it's about 8 months now. And as you can see right off the bat, the face of the layout has changed quite significantly. It's improved a lot and it's starting to look a lot more like a layout. So quite honestly, I can't remember what I had completed since the last layout update. So I might repeat myself a little bit throughout this video. However, right off the bat, you can see that the lighting valance, which is the one that goes on the top around the room there, it is now more or less complete. Actually, I think it's pretty much complete. And obviously I've painted the fascia board all the way around the layout. It only got one layer of paint, so as I go around the room and show you various things, you'll see that some of it's been scuffed up from other work and whatnot, but I plan to give that at least another 2 coats minimum, if not 3, just to kind of really make sure that the paint's on there and it's kind of scratch and scuff resistant, more or less. So yeah, without any further ado, let's go take a look at what I've completed and what else is new. So one of the new improvements to the layout room that I recently purchased, well, I guess it was probably back in June, maybe even late May. I purchased an AC unit, one of these portable AC units, and the reason I did that is because during the summer months, being that this is kind of more or less an attic space, it gets very, very hot up here, and with the recent summers that we've been having here in British Columbia, it's been anywhere between 26 and pretty much 40, I think 41 degrees Celsius was the highest temperature that we got to. So with humidity, mind you. And as you can probably imagine, that wreaks a little bit of havoc up here in the layout room, especially with the humidity and the heat and the fact that the rails do expand a little bit. I have cut expansion joints every so many feet in the mainline tracks to ensure that that doesn't happen as often. However, my biggest concern was the gates, because as things expand, the gates seem to have a difficult time closing all the way, or in the winter, because this also doubles over as a heater as well. When it gets colder up here, everything tends to shrink, and then the gates swing too much, and there's large gaps in the rail. So I bought this just to kind of ensure there's at least somewhat of a regular temperature in this room. I don't have it going right now because it's pretty good up here right now, and I do have ceiling fans. So with this, it just adds another kind of fluctuation in temperature that I can kind of control more or less. So I'm going to go freehand here for a minute, so bear with me. I just wanted to show you all of the fascia work that has been completed since the last layout update. So you can see I got all the way around there, and I'll show you the branch line a little later because that's pretty much where most of the work has been taking place. But I got the fascia done over there too, and if I just swing around here, you can see, as you did in the opening shot, that pretty much all of the fascia on the layout is complete. The only thing I haven't completed yet is the wall here that hides the helix that kind of goes into the other room there. I have to paint that blue still. I have to do some work, some more sanding, etc. And I can't remember if I showed you this, but this panel here, this kind of L-shaped panel, it's actually entirely removable, and it's held in place by these picture frame clips. So I got that completed. I can't recall if I showed you that in the last layout update. Maybe I was working on it still, but that's really handy if I have any derailments in the helix, which I've been lucky, knock on wood, I haven't had anything significant yet. So this is just, again, another kind of added access feature, if you will, just in case I do have any problems. So continuing on with the freehanding, another thing I did was I put kind of the ceiling into the valance, or the lighting valance. The reason I did this is because with these 3 large ceiling lights or ceiling windows, a lot of light was going past this thin little valance fascia, and what I intend to do is install LED lighting on the inside. So with that and the fact that the light from the ceiling lights was shining through, it would almost make the LED lights pointless, and it would cause a lot of overcast and shadows from the valance fascia board, etc. So I decided to put a roof in there, and I also painted it the same sky blue as the backdrop, just to kind of make things look more complete. And then, might be hard to see here, but I also put like a kind of a crown molding in up here. It's curved, so it's less noticeable. There's not as sharp of an angle, which I quite like. And then I don't know how well it's working. It seems to be working better in some areas, more so than others, but to cover up the seams between the pieces of hardboard, I use this heat adhesive style, I guess it was like more of like a finishing type project for edges and stuff. And basically you take a clothing iron and you heat it up, and then you just press and heat up these strips to make them adhere to the surface that you're trying to complete. And it seems to be working, but again, with the temperature fluctuations, I find that some areas are peeling a little bit. They might be cracking a little bit with the expansion and contraction. So I really don't know how well it's gonna last or how long it's gonna last, but for now, I think I'm pretty happy with it. And I haven't actually 100% completed this project because over on the other side of the layout room, it's still kind of a work in progress, which we'll take a look at now. So this is the section that I have yet to complete. I actually ended up running out of paint, so that's where I ended. And with the color difference between the hardboard that has yet to be painted and the backdrop, which already has, as well as the crown molding, you can kind of see what I did here. So I essentially stapled the hardboard to the framework of the valance, and then I just stapled the crown molding into place and then covered it up, or covered all the holes and gaps in the molding with like a white silicone type product. Gave it a light sanding, and I'm gonna pretty much call it done there. I'm not focusing too much energy on it because once everything's scenic, your eyes aren't gonna be drawn to that anyway. And with the minimum, well, more or less minimal amount of work it is to install the molding, I think it looks pretty good the way it is. So I ended up stopping pretty much here for the molding because I ran out of it as well. So I still have this section here and all of the backdrop behind my pile of boxes there that I have yet to install the molding and paint the sky, I guess you can call it. So another thing that I haven't completed yet, and it's more or less because I'm struggling to find a product that will suit my needs, is something that's flexible enough that's similar to the molding that I'm installing to fill in the corners of the or where the backdrop curves. And I have that in several places. So if you guys know a product that will help me with finishing this off, please suggest it in the comments and I'll definitely check it out, because I am having very little luck trying to find anything that will suit my needs. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to continue with the freehanding video work here because my tripod isn't tall enough. But if you haven't noticed already, the upper level yard is functional. It's not 100% complete yet, but it's to the point now where I can have some fun with it. The yard is 4 tracks plus a runaround, so 5 tracks total. And then you have the main line over here. And then this here is kind of a siding. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with it yet. I think it may be a station track for a passenger train, and there'll be a station back there. So it's a pretty small yard, but it provides enough space for me to put stuff on the layout and have some fun with switching some trains and running them, and at least gives me a place to store it. I still have to put in some sort of engine track. I think I'm going to do a track right here that's about 5 feet long, just a single track, and maybe an engine shop. I'm not 100% sold on it because this yard up here is more of like a staging yard, kind of like Boston Bar in British Columbia here. It's not going to be a whole lot of action. It's going to be a lot of just stop and go, pick up a train and go. So I might just simulate maybe a fuel truck, have a fuel truck somewhere in the yard that refuels engines or what have you. But like I said, not going to be a hugely functional yard. It's more of a place just for trains to sit. But another thing that I've been thinking about, I'm not 100% sold on yet because it's going to take a lot of work to do, is installing a Y on the upper level. The reason why I'm not 100% sold on it is because, one, it's going to create a lot of dust again, and finally, with all the construction done, the dust is settling in the room, so I don't have as much of an issue with it. But it will require me to extend the upper level bench work as well as the lower level bench work in order to accommodate the length I'll need in order to put in a Y that has a great enough track length on it that I can turn around more than one engine or one car or what have you. So I'm thinking if I do end up doing it, it'll probably extend out to here at least, which takes away quite a bit of my walkway. But if I do it properly, I don't think I'll regret it. So maybe in the next layout update you'll see some more work on this, but I have a lot more thinking to do yet before I make any decisions. So another thing I've been doing is starting the sub scenery on the layout, and as you can see here, these are just foam cutouts that I have installed, just kind of a quick sort of contour to get an idea of what the landscape's going to look like. And then once those are in place, then I start doing my cardboard webbing and paper. So this is just one spot that I've started to do that. Also a little hill along here, and then I've cut the pieces out that suit the river or fit the river, and some more pieces in here. It looks kind of funny right now, but it all ties together once you get the cardboard webbing and paper in there. And I decided to do a large hill back here just to kind of hide all this mess back here, because when I extended the backdrop to go another, I think it was 6 inches or so, this whole corner here was a bit of a mess due to my kind of afterthought sort of idea. And then I've cut some foam out all the way over here. I'm thinking this spot's really low. I'm thinking I'm gonna have some sort of water feature here, maybe kind of like a collection pond where the water drains, or kind of a swampy area. I'm not 100% sure yet, but as you can see, I've done all this through here and stopped right here because I have yet to paint all of this. So we can kind of get a little bit of an idea. The hillsides along the backdrop are going to be quite high because this area through here is going to be quite, there's going to be quite a few mountains and trees, etc. It's going to be kind of a lush green area. So happy with how this is turning out so far. And then also, now that I thought about it, I installed a switch since the last layout update, full focus rather, and that just leads to a small industry which I've yet to decide on. Back here there'll be a little town scene back here just to kind of give the upper level a little more flavor, but yeah, there'll be a small industry back there that'll be able to manage 2 or 3 cars max. Thinking a brewery or some sort of little lumber transload facility. And I definitely can't forget about this because I put a lot of work into it in the summer months. I finished the intermodal yard, or the track work at least. So as you can see, there's 3 tracks there. There's quite a long one in the back here, and then there's 2 shorter ones. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do with this space yet, if it's going to be entirely intermodal, or if I'm going to do just the 2 front tracks as intermodal and then kind of cram a coal unloading section or like a potash unloading section in the back, the far track closest to the main line. Because my original idea was to make this sort of like a Roberts Bank type themed area that accepts both intermodal and coal. The other thing is that I could do kind of like a transload track in the back there where it'll take grain and oil or something along those lines, because I can kind of cram a grain industry a little bit better than a large warehouse type structure for potash or coal. But yeah, still stuff to think about for this section here. But again, with the track work complete, it just adds another functional portion of the layout, so I can actually have some fun when I bring some friends over and run some trains. So the other thing you'll see there is some auto racks. I may or may not have auto racks go to this location on the layout. Not entirely sure yet, but still up for discussion and lots to think about again. So as I hinted to earlier in this video, I said that the Branchline area underwent a lot of work over the last couple of months, and more specifically in the last couple of weeks, because I've been able to find a lot more time now that school's finished and for the winter break at least, to get up here and work on the layout. So just kind of give you a quick overview here. I have done most of the subterranean for the grade. So the mountain terrain is in place with the exception of a few spots because I have some more work to do, which I'll go over in a second here. So we are at the other end of the grade here, and as you can see, lots of work has gone into this. So this is the track that comes out of the helix, comes out of a tunnel there, crosses a bridge, goes into another short tunnel, and climbs the rest of the grade. I'll give you a closer look here with a bit of a freehand of what it all looks like, but I'm really liking the way this is turning out so far, and I'll just show you a few other areas that I have to work on yet. So like I said, this track right here comes out of the helix. This track right here goes to the backdrop on the lower level and comes out by the intermodal yard, and obviously this is the swing gate for the branch line. But as you can see, pretty impressive landscape type structure. This one extends all the way to the top of the valance, and right here you can see a bit of a square cutout. This is an access point, so that again, if I have any issues inside the helix, I can reach in there and grab whatever I need. Also can grab down there if there's any derailments on the lower level. So, and then also kind of gives me it's tight, but I can reach in there as some access to the wiring for the upper level if anything happens. So that just slides nicely in there, like so, if I can get it to square up. A little bit difficult to square up, but we'll get to that point eventually. So yeah, happy with the way that turned out. And obviously the large bridge scene, which is going to be quite a significant landmark on the layout. And once I get the bridge kit for this section, all I have to do is take a jigsaw and cut that portion out, obviously without the track, because the track will just end up getting ripped up. But this section will just unscrew out of the bench work below the landscape there, and I can just lift it out and install the kit whenever it's complete. And then down here, not as large of a river as I wanted it to be, but it's going to kind of just add another sort of interest point on the layout. There's going to be a little waterfall back there. It's going to be more of a white rapid type water scene, I guess. And then on the other side of the valley is some very steep rock work eventually, which goes into a small tunnel, which is about the length of an auto rack, maybe a little bit more. And the reason I haven't closed any of this off yet is because I have I'm going to be installing rock molds on the inside. Probably use the Woodland Scenics mold for the tunnel, the inside of a tunnel. And once I install those, which I'll be installing all the way through the tunnel, I'll cover this section up and it will be complete. And then this section here is open as well because I have yet to install the tortoise switch machines for the north and south end switches. Undecided on what I'm going to do with those yet, if I'm going to go the expensive route of installing a nice push button I guess switch, which tells the direction of which way the points are thrown. It also happens to make things easier for wiring and signals and various other things that are involved when installing switches. or I can just throw a tortoise in there and throw in a cheap little push button which doesn't tell me which way the points are thrown, and just call it done. So still undecided on that, and just another thing to think about. But obviously I've installed all of the subterranean throughout this section. As you can see, it kind of tapers off as we get closer to the upper level, and then we approach this area here, which kind of gives you an idea of what I have done to complete the subterranean. So as I mentioned earlier, I was using a cardboard webbing method. Awesome way to do stuff. It's quite strong. It's a little bit flimsy when you first start off, but once you get the paper in here and you glue the paper onto the cardboard webbing, everything solidifies quite well. Just as long as you manage to get the paper to sit flat on the cardboard webbing, which can be difficult, especially with all these different angles. Like I think this section here isn't 100% glued to the cardboard webbing, but I'm not 100%, I'm not too concerned about that, because once I get the plaster over top of the paper, it's just going to become that much more solid. And then obviously this section here is also left open because I have to install the tortoise switch machine there. So very, very pleased on how this whole area turned out, and it's starting to kind of look a lot more like a layout. So I'm pretty happy with this area, and the Branchline and the grade are probably two of the most complete areas on the layout. So I'll probably start actually putting some scenery down, plaster, some turf, etc., and making this area a little more complete. So pretty happy to move on to that stage of the layout construction. Also, as you can see right here, I have a ton of these cardboard strips cut out, various lengths, mainly these long ones here, and I've been collecting scrap cardboard whenever I can. I think I spent like 2 hours cutting all of this stuff out the other day. But this is what goes into making the sub-scenery of your mountains or terrain, and those are just kind of on standby, ready to be glued into place, as making these is quite time consuming. So if you can sit down for an hour or two at a time and cut a bunch of these up, it's worth the time, because everything kind of falls into place quicker rather than cutting them as you need it. And then down below here is an assortment of cardboard and styrofoam for the sub-scenery. So it's kind of a little side note as to what it takes to install this kind of scenery. So although it seems as though I did a fair amount of work on the layout, I definitely did more purchasing of new products than anything else. So what you're looking at right here is my completed train of crude oil, and these are mostly Scale Trains products, like with the exception of the one buffer car on the end. So this buffer car here, that is a Scale Trains product, and all of the tank cars are also Scale Trains. It's a mix of the JTX half ladder tank cars and the VMSX full ladder crude oil tank cars. I think this train looks really sharp. I originally decided to build and purchased a bunch of these cars because there's been a lot of crude oil traffic lately on the Canadian National, coming up from the States via BNSF, and which then go to the province of Alberta to be loaded, and then they come back to BC and down through the border. So I figured it was a pretty prototypical train to get on my layout, as I'm mainly modeling the Canadian National, which interchanges with Burlington Northern Santa Fe here. So we'll just go to the other end of this train and look at the one other car that I'm using as a buffer. Again, one of the new products that I've recently purchased. So the two lead locomotives are not new. The first locomotive I showed in a previous layout update, which was the last one that I uploaded about 8 months ago. This one I can't remember if I showed you, but that was part of a trade with a buddy of mine. Most of you will know him as West Coast Rails on YouTube. He did some custom sound on that and weathering. Looks like an awesome unit, as well as LEDs. So pretty happy with that unit. But this car here is one of one of the many Athearn rolling stock pieces that I've picked up recently. I'm using it as a buffer car. This is from their most recent run. It's a ex-Burlington Northern, now patched to BNSF. And I'm not sure if you can exactly see it here, but this one is one of their primed for grime cars. So you can see that this color here is faded, and then they have the more vibrant green patches along the car here. It's kind of difficult to see. I'm not exactly sure if the camera's picking it up, but it's a really nice car, and they even added the reflective stripes on there. So that's pretty awesome. That's one of the things that Athearn has been doing more recently with their rolling stock, is actually putting the yellow reflective stripes on. So happy with that car, and let's go take a look at the other cars and rolling stock that I have recently purchased. So I recently picked up these brand new releases from Atlas. These are the 73-foot center partition cars, or center beams. And I picked up various road numbers and schemes. The first one was a DWC patch. Second one is a TTX in brown. Followed by it is Wisconsin Central. And then I also got an NDYX partition car, which you see there, and then the SMW car, and then followed by it is another DWC in Wisconsin Central. You can see the two different variations of blue that they released. So those are just 7 of the center beams that I picked up, and I think I picked up about 12 or 13 of these because it was one of the cars that I was lacking on the layout. So I also picked up this Union Pacific -8. This is actually an Overland Models brass unit, and my plans for it is to patch it to GECX. CN currently has a few of these on lease, and this locomotive is actually no longer owned by CSF, or UP rather. Followed by it is 2 more Skill Trains tank cars, and then there is also 3 of these new Athearn ready to roll FMC 4700 covered hoppers, and I got various schemes of those 3 hoppers there, including the BNSF, and then behind those cars are 3 brand new Rapido Via Rail dome cars. So I got all 3 numbers just to kind of build my Via Rail fleet. So here's just the stack of boxes that I have of all these new pieces of rolling stock. Those are all the Atlas center beams there. There's still some in their boxes because I just can't fit them on the layout at this point in time with the lower yard not being complete. And then behind it is actually the UP-8 40CW box, Overland brass green box, as they say. And then beside it are those 3 hoppers. There's also, like I said, that green BNSF hopper that is on the crude oil train at the moment. Well guys, that is all for this layout update. I know it was long overdue, and I always promise to try and get these coming out a little more frequently, but just with school and starting a new job back in June, it's just been very, very busy. I've been doing a lot of volunteering and various other activities as well. So I'm very busy, and I try and get what I can done when I find myself with free time, which is fairly seldom. But when I get up here, I grind away and I get stuff done. So I'm happy with the way that the grade and the mountains turned out so far. I'm excited to get the plaster on it, paint it up, start carving rocks and installing trees and other ground foams. And with the amount of work that I've got done over those previous 8 months, the layout has become a lot more functional, a lot more fun to operate, so I'm happy with it so far. But then again, it's obviously not as far as I'd like to be with an 8-month time frame having gone by already. But that being said, I'm happy with what I've done, and I'm glad to finally find some time to get a layout update. out to you guys. I know I've been posting a lot of rail fanning videos from my trip to Jasper and a few hours here and there when I found myself with some time to get trackside with some buddies. So without holding you for any longer, thank you for tuning in to this layout update. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to put them in the comments below, and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. So, with Christmas approaching, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and we will see you in the new year.